When Rosalyn Wilcox plays, she usually wears black, hat, jeans, jacket, boots, all black, except for her lipstick, which is always a vibrant shade of red or pink. Tonight, she's agreed to sit for an interview. We meet at a restaurant in the heart of Clarksdale, Mississippi, place where they say the blues was born. The blues, in fact, is what brought Rosalyn to Clarksdale. She's a blues musician. They call me Mississippi Rose. She smiles. Rose like Rosalyn. I confess to her, I don't guess I've ever really listened to the blues. I probably shouldn't have said it. I think I said it too casually, but it's too late now. She responds, boy, listen here. She talks to me as if she is my mom and I am a lost son. The blues is your culture. The blues is black culture. Go find you a show and listen for yourself. Rosalyn had given me a divine imperative. Go listen for yourself. Now, I grew up in a small town not too far from here. My folk always told me that when an elder black woman tells you to do something, you do it. So I did it. I decided to go to T-Bone's Blues Lounge, a small club on Clarksdale's downtown square. The blues is black culture. I think to myself as I make my way inside, where I am struck, first, figuratively, by how crowded it is. Then I'm struck literally as a woman wearing purple dances past my arm, stopping only to compel others to join her. I leave before the show is over, smelling of smoke and unmet expectations. I had not long moved to Clarksdale, dragging bags and boxes from the Delta summer heat into the third bedroom of a house by the river, placing them neatly beside all of the naive ambition that comes with being a fourth-year PhD student writing a dissertation. From Chapel Hill, I had come to Clarksdale looking like Zora for 1,001 stories, wanted to study black community life in the South. So when Rosalyn had told me that the blues had something to say to black folk, I went looking, went to places like T-Bone's, looking and found nothing. So I thought. So I wondered, was there in fact something to learn about my culture, about black culture from the blues? Was there a story to be exhumed from dead and dusty places like T-Bone's? As a young sociologist, I addressed these questions the best way that I knew how, with data. I kept going to shows. I went to every blues show and juke joint and festival and museum and historic site. I sat in the coffee shop and on blues tour buses, poured over 50 years of census data, combed through photos and documents from the archives. I talked with folks, interviewed some 200 folks, and after months of field work, after months of collecting data, it seemed I was exactly where I had started that night at T-Bone's. When it came to the blues in Clarksdale, there was something that seemed to be, I don't know, missing. So I went back. Disappointed, I went back, retraced my steps, reread Clyde Woods, re-listened to B.B. King, rewatched the Queen play Bessie, looked again for things that I might have missed. Then I went back to Rosalyn. I rushed back to Rosalyn like St. Luke's prodigal son, like Rita Watson back to Sister Mary Clarence, like me back to my mama house in July and on Sundays and when she cooks. I rushed back to Rosalyn wondering what she might say, how she might deal with what I saw as a data-supported and therefore undeniable truth. She was wrong. So I thought. What happened next changed not just how I thought about my work as a student, as a scholar, but how I thought about my life. Gave me, and I think us, a new blueprint for what it means to be whole and human and critical, to live an inward and introspective and empathetic life, to be grateful and brave. And Rosalyn and I are again at a local restaurant, me going on and on and on, telling her how I had been to every club and juke joint, every show and festival, all for nothing. Telling her, I told her, "You told me to go find a show and see for myself." She responded plainly, as if she was my mother and I was her wanting son. "No, I told you to go listen, not go see." Rosalyn Wilcox is a blues musician. 39 years on guitar, 10 on drum, 15 on djembe and tambourine. When she plays, she usually wears black: hat, jeans, jacket, boots, and a pair of sunglasses. Rosalyn Wilcox is legally blind. "Things are blurry," she tells me. "I see lots of dots and things wiggle around. I see shapes and colors, but not much else." "And you're still doing blues," I say. Question and answer, hymn and exaltation. "It's in my bones," she says. "I can play with my eyes closed." "Let me give you a song," she sings, then says, "The blues is about culture. You grew up in the church. If you grew up in the church, you really grew up with the blues, and we say it. This is Mississippi Rosalyn, and we're going to go to church now, y'all. The blues," she repeats herself, "is black culture. Think about it." There I'd been thinking that I was thinking about it. Thinking that if I looked long enough, that if I looked hard enough, I'd eventually find something, that I'd find the story that needed to be told by the sheer force of my own will and determination, that is, by my own sight. But I was always only trying to see, looking for what I thought would be the obvious thing. And when I didn't find it, I thought the problem was in the looking, so I just looked harder. Then I heard Rosalyn's words, "Go listen, not look." And when I did that, when I stopped studying the things that were obvious, turned my attention to the impulses, to the people, to the communities, to the memories, to the experiences that were quiet and seemingly missing, I realized that the thing that I was looking for, I already had. I had it. I had it in the story of Rick Sutton, who had dragged bags and boxes more than 20 years ago into the bowels of an old school bus that sat sunken in the middle of a field in the country, placing them neatly beside his pride, which lay unfurled across a seat at the back, his bed, who 20 years later dragged those same bags and boxes between the walls of a building off the square, placing them neatly underneath a gallery of degrees and awards, certificates and pictures, one an old Polaroid of a school bus, reminders of the way that he traveled, not by wheels or road, but by knee and back. I had it in the story of 71-year-old Doris King, who had told me in a single breath with a wide smile about a tattered and torn and incomplete set of encyclopedias that she loved. Most of them red, 2 of them blue, all of them dusty, warmed by the rays of the daylight's first sun, bright at the front of the old woman's mind, full in the memory of her late Uncle Drew, rich like the greens on the land that she plowed, still like the stone that now covers her grave. I had it in time spent at cookouts and at folk kitchen tables, under tents, fanning away mosquitoes and barbecue smoke, inside jokes and line devils. Had it at pickup basketball games with folk old like my soul, young like my spirit, and tall enough to dunk without barely even jumping. Churches, fellowship, folk putting aprons over their Sunday best to serve chicken and biscuits in honey sweet preachers, kicking off their shoes, making folk move and shout in theirs, arguments over spade games and the best kind of hot sauce, straight Hennessy over dirty dominoes and the best kind of communion, laughter, had it in kids walking and running in the streets with their shirts off and their hands up and living to tell about it, crafting elaborate maps from triangles and squares, then hopping 1 foot by 2 towards the sun, sitting on steps with dolls and beads and braids and gel and rubber bands, sharing their highs and lows and hopes. Had it in a third grader, holding my hand in the hallway, icing from a rich caramel cake smudged on his cheek, asking me if I had anybody in my family that died. If I still had my mama, he lost his. Had it in glowing candles and dim goodbyes, tick marks toward justice, marches toward peace, balloons floating like Rosalyn's voice when she gave me a song, low but rising like smoke to wind to sky. I had the story. The story had come not in the apparent answer to my question in the data, but it had come in the journey that I had taken to find it, on the days and nights before all them shows and after all them festivals, on streets like Ritchie and Barnes and Poplar, not sidewalks burdened with lawn chairs and coffee tins at the stage or the Ritz we ain't at, Willow Park apartments where folks sat and stood on steps with guns and zippers and cups, communion run all the way to the top, so they can see the road shooting straight through the night to the sky like their dreams. And the time spent at folk houses on the good chairs with the thin plastic, and the front porch with auntie and mama waving at the cars of folk they don't know, at the gas station and the post office, and the mourner's bench, cursing and quiet and looking and lost in the quest to find and feel the emptiness inside of me, to hear my own voice and story tell, a tale that spanned past and present and even echoes into the future squarely on and in the imagination of all them people spent all that time seeking and making and doing and teaching and keeping the future, being a new way to see and make sense of a moment that requires something from each of us, a way for us to hear our own blind spots in absent places and keep the rhythm of the beat in time. Like Rosalyn, I'm gonna give you a song. In it, there are 4 things worth listening for. First is what we might call the own beats, the first and third beats in a measure, the beats that we typically stomp our feet to. Second are the back beats, the second and fourth in a measure, the beats that we typically clap to. Those beats, on beat, back beat, playing in tandem are easy to follow. They are apparent, they are loud. But there's more. Number 3, there's the guitar, the accent. As effortless as it is light, as fresh as it is folk, like all them people in all that time, there's the voice of L.C. Ulmer. As timeless as it is here, thanking her life with his. Thinking her name in the quiet.
Ain't gonna forget this girl.
Calling and
No
singing
matter how long I live.
like talk. Fourth, there's another beat. It sometimes comes before the on beat or right after the back beat. Maybe it's a silent pause, a break in rhythm, a double clap. Either way, if we didn't have it, we'd have a different song, a different sound. These beats we call the off beats. They play in the background. They seem missing. We all have off beats, blind spots. privileges, white privilege, male privilege, class privilege. Maybe they echo in our homophobia, xenophobia, racism, misogyny, misogynoir. Maybe they are muted in our fears and insecurities, made inaudible by some trauma that, although it happened long ago, still seems close and loud like djembes and tambourines. Listen, the pathway to wholeness, to a changed society, begins in the offbeats, in our own capacities to hear ours, to call out others, speak truth even when it hurts, to power even when it don't want to listen. But we do it, we say it, we sing it, we play it, making sure the sound rises like smoke
I know one girl in Clarksdale.
to wind to sky
Broke my heart in two.
and falls like Pentecost
Hey, boy,
on the on
what was her name?
or the back
It's Rosalyn.
or the off.